Aliens are real.
When are you gonna set age limits on Congress? You're all way too fucking old. Where's all the money you're sending to Ukraine going? You're clearly laundering it. Show us Epstein's client list.
Aliens are real!
Yeah, nobody fucking cares.
Shit.
Did you know that today in the 117th Congress of the 535 congressmen and women, 100 of them are descendants of slave owners? 18 of the current 50 governors in the United States are descendants of slave owners. 2 out of the 9 Supreme Court justices are descendants of slave owners. 4 out of the 5 living ex-presidents are descendants of slave owners. And that's not including Joe Biden, who himself is a descendant of slave owners. You see, the reason I care and do so much, bruh, is because unlike you, for some of us, ignorance isn't a luxury we can afford.
I finally touched a first female. And when I say, it felt good. Ooh, like the camel noodle soup. Good. Good. I'm not gay no more. Good. I am delivered. Good. Good like the camel noodle soup. Good. I don't like men no more. We've been gone. It felt good.
This is a moral issue that needs to be addressed today. When in 1946, when the NFL was forced to reintegrate, because from 1933 to 1945, the all-white NFL didn't want any blacks in the industry. They said the black players were slowing down its growth. And then Fritz Pollard developed the Negro Football League. And after World War II, there was a big push for the Negro League to compete with the all-white NFL. So what they did was they took the good players from the Negro League and integrated them into the all-white NFL. And now, since 1946, the black players have taken it to $1 billion plus market, yet we have no owner within the industry. We are the record breakers and the trendsetters, yet we have no voice within the industry. NFL owners are guaranteed profits annually without even a fan going into the stadium, yet players have no guaranteed contracts. This is plantation capitalism going on right now.
It felt good. 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 It felt good.
You mentioned men should be gentlemen. Where are the ladies?
We're right here.
But you just said you're an escort. I mean, like, you're not a lady.
Excuse me?
You're a female, but you're not a lady.
What makes me not a lady? Because I got in a shitty situation at 18 and did what I had to do to survive and pay my bills.
I mean, that doesn't undo the fact that, look, you
that
are not
make
a
me
lady.
Not a lady. I'm a survivor. I'm someone that's really strong. Like, I don't understand how I wouldn't be a lady.
Sure, you can be strong, but when I say lady, I'm sort of talking about traditional gender roles. So, a gentleman versus a lady.
There's a girl out there right now by the name of Lizzo, and people are encouraging her to do everything except what would save her life, which is lose weight.
No, but it's like.
And there's no man that they're doing that to. There's no man that they're out there saying, make sure when he take his shirt off, we let him feel good about his body.
You're right, but they just did with 50 Cent. You're right.
On a dating site. For women, they're the only people who have a category called big, and then they put a caveat behind it, and beautiful. Why is this big woman called beautiful but not slim and beautiful, medium and beautiful? It's only big and beautiful. Why are we attaching beautiful to this heavy set woman? Why? She should be able to be judged like everybody else on her beauty regardless of her size. But because we're catering to her. Now, when you go and look at a man, it doesn't say big and handsome.
Even AI wants us to be vegan. AI has said that we must leave the animals alone.
What are you talking about, AI?
AI?
This is the average vegan, holier than thou.
Do you believe in consent?
Of course, yes.
Well, you don't. Not to mention environmental racism, okay?
What is environmental racism?
Okay, environmental racism, the people, the human beings on planet Earth that are predominantly affected by world hunger caused by non-vegans are black people. So basically, there is a correlation.
Taking a sick spin on this.
No, there is a correlation between non-veganism and harm. And it's already been proven, like, psychologically that non-vegans are more likely to be abusers, murderers, rapists, etc. And so non-veganism has a ripple effect into racism.
So Because I'm not vegan, I'm also racist now, is what you're saying.
You don't care about black people. You don't care about consent. Do your research.
Your argument is I'm holier than you. You're wrong.
No, that's your perception because of your guilt.
Women cry abuse for everything, and we've actually lost the meaning of abuse. And I know this because I'm doing a divorce documentary, and so I'm actually interviewing men that are in the process of getting like absolutely wrecked by divorce, and a lot of them have had false allegations put out against them. And a lot of those, basically what the feminists do is they expand the definition of abuse to include things like coercive control, financial abuse, and even physical abuse. A lot of times, like, girls don't talk about how they hit first, and most abusive situations are mutually abusive, meaning they're both hitting each other. And so a lot of times what girls will do is they'll say, oh, I'm being abused, but they don't talk about how she hit him first.
Like the camel noodle soup. Good.
Who is the most famous actress you can think of?
Actress? Drew Barrymore.
Okay, if Drew Barrymore was in a movie with a male co-star that nobody had heard of, would it be fair to pay them the same salary?
No.
Why not?
Because he's not, like, known of, and because he didn't, like, work to be famous like she did.
Okay, since Drew is the star of the movie, won't she bring more people to the theater than her co-star?
Yes.
Okay, that's called star power. How is that different than the gender pay gap?
That's a loaded one. Like, for women or for, like...
Well, I mean, the WNBA complains about not being paid the same to the NBA, and they don't generate as much revenue. So, I mean, isn't that kind of like the same thing?
I feel like the WNBA isn't promoted as much as the NBA because they are women.
Right, but, I mean, wouldn't a male co-star that no one's ever heard of not be promoted as much and not be able to...
Yeah, I guess.
So is that comparable?
Maybe, sure.
I mean, wouldn't it have more to do with performance than discrimination?
Oh, I don't know. You're like hitting me. I wasn't ready.
I saw a therapist because I was going to get top surgery. Thank God I didn't. And I went and saw a therapist once. And I remember this was like about 6 to 8 months down the road from my transition. I was starting to really actually pass as a guy. And I went to see another therapist about getting top surgery. And it only took one therapy appointment for me to explain that I was trans or identified as trans and I wanted to get top surgery. They didn't ask me any questions. They didn't like poke or prod or try to be like, how long have you been transitioning? Are you sure this is the right thing for you? Nothing. They sent me a letter or something to my insurance company so I could get approved under insurance to go get this surgery. I had even been talking to the doctor's office that does these. Everything was approved. Nobody questioned me. Nobody did anything. I was basically diagnosing myself consistently throughout my entire transition. I was responsible for my own medical diagnosis, which is really crazy, and it's something that's unfortunately very, very common.
I don't like men no more. I'm not gay no more. I am delivered. I'm not gay no more. I don't like men no more.
Wait, how old is your daughter?
She's 9 months.
So where's her father? What's going on with you guys?
He's in the hospital, so he's very ill, so I'm looking for like a stepfather.
Wait, so you broke up with him while he's in the hospital?
No, I didn't break up with him.
Were y'all not together when he went to the hospital?
Yeah, we're still together.
Wait, okay.
I'm looking for like, just in case.
Just in case if he passes away?
Right.
Get the French toast out of here.
Are you serious?
Yes, Kendra. You have to have one in the chamber. Kendra, come on now.
One secret you never told your ex.
I f***ed a lot of his friends. Sorry.
Damn. Any of his friends did you
I was cheating on him. I cheated on you.
How many times?
Like 17. Cheated. But I cheated on him.
There's one secret you never told your ex.
I f***ed his teammate.
What is one secret you never told your ex?
That I cheated like a bit of times.
Do you have some?
I mean, I cheated all the time.
How many times is all the time? Like, realistically?
Every time I got the chance.
And if you let that motherfucker shenan once, best believe they gon' shenan again.
And if you let that motherfucker hula once, best believe they gon' hula again.
Most female-dominated industries are sex or beauty-related, correct?
Yeah, that's the way things are right now. That should change.
Well, right, but why would women want to give up their power if they can use it to,
Because it shouldn't be the only power that we're able to hold in society.
Well, whether it should
When you don't give women a fair chance to gain power, they're going to do whatever it takes.
Well, is there anything stopping women from getting power any other way?
Yes, men.
Well, I mean, but men also give women their power, correct?
Not enough of it.
Well, obviously, if all
Not
the
in
men,
the ways it matters.
If all the men in the world were gay, how would women get power?
Because they're fucking women.
What does that mean?
They're strong and better than men.
Well, right, but I'm saying if women couldn't use sex to control men, then how would they get power?
Skip.
I am delivered.
Girls go into a bathroom. They tell their parents that, oh, there's a boy in the bathroom. He's a transgender boy, 6 foot tall. The parent contacts the school. The school says, well, that's the policy. If you don't like it, you can use the single-use bathroom, or you can go see the Unified Mental Health Team. Well, wait a minute. So you're telling me that the school gave a boy an accommodation to feel safe and comfortable in the bathroom of the sex he identifies with. But you did not give the girl the accommodation to feel safe and comfortable in the bathroom of her biological sex. That sounds like sex discrimination.
Sure does.
So what I want to see happen is for people to start bringing sex discrimination claims in these instances. Now, you may not be invalidating the policy, but you're going to render the policy pretty toothless when schools start getting hit with sex discrimination claim after sex discrimination claim.
Keep it or ban it. Okay, so here's the video.
That is not drag. That is pole dancing. They set her up.
No, look, watch. This is drag in front of kids, like toddlers and babies.
You know what?
Look, that's drag, see?
That drag got set up because not all drags are like that. Drags are respectful, and if they're gonna go to the kids, they're gonna dress up accordingly.
Do you think we should ban the sexually explicit performances in front of kids, though?
Well, what about the straight porn that they've been doing for a long time?
That should be banned too, yeah.
Exactly. Don't attack drag. That drag queen got set up.
But do you think that kind of drag should be banned in front of kids?
No.
Did you guys hear about the dad in Sarasota that got fired for speaking out at a school board meeting? If not, listen to this. His son came home from school one day and said, "Dad, I'm getting bullied. These kids are all wanting to participate in this challenge where we all wear rainbow colors to support the LGBTQ community. I don't want to participate in that. And when I'm telling them no, they're bullying me." Dad said, "Okay, go talk to the counselor, go talk to your teachers, tell them you do not want to participate and to please have the kids stop doing that to you." The dad, they all have stickers on, signs in their offices. Nobody is going to help me. So the dad called the campus, and sure enough, they not support his request to have the bullying stop and to have the kids stop trying to get him to wear these rainbow colored shirts. So dad took it to the school board, spoke out, and 3 minutes at that school board meeting completely changed the trajectory of his life. In an hour of presenting his requests at the school board, people were already calling him. Activists from the schools were threatening him. Within 24 hours, though, when he went back to work the next day, he tried to log into his computer system. He was kicked out. VP of HR comes downstairs and says, "We're going to have to let you go because now there are people here at this workplace that feel unsafe because of your views." When is this going to stop, guys?
This is what happens whenever you ask a transgender activist to explain even the basic premise of the movement, is they'll immediately say, well, who cares? Why are you so obsessed with this? I'm not obsessed with this. I'm not the one who started sending men into the women's bathroom and taking away their trophies and castrating kids. I'm perfectly happy with the way things have worked for thousands of years. It is the transgender activists who are trying to upend everything. And so I think it is at least my right to ask the question, okay, what is the premise of your movement? But they always deflect from that. They always withdraw from the debate. They always try to change the subject because there is no answer. So you ask me, well, what's the purpose of, why do you even care? What's the purpose of knowing someone's biological sex? Well, for starters, because we have civil rights specifically for women in the United States. We have special bathrooms for women. We have special sports leagues for women. We have all sorts of special places and rights and privileges and that are for women that are not for men. So if now some men, people who at the very least appear to be men, are claiming a right to go into those women's bathrooms, then we either have to abolish all of the special rights and privileges that have existed for women for all of human history and are enshrined in our law, or they need to explain to me how those men are actually women. And they can't do the latter, and I'm not willing to do the former, and I don't think women across this country are willing to do the former, even if a few people have been so ideologically blinded that they would give into this kind of an absurdity.
elementary educators? This is where it happens, my friends. The more work we can do at the elementary level, breaking down the gender binary, getting rid of girls and boys, and there's so much work that can happen, and we're going to have some of those conversations today. My plethora of queer flags that I have in my classroom. And the truth is that we know that kids are coming out at younger and younger ages, and gender is, sexuality as well, but especially looking at gender, we have kids as early as 2-3 years of age. I always tell independent teachers, you're going to have more longevity making change if you maybe play it a little safer for a little longer. Who knows if on Monday I'm going to come in and I'm going to be told to take down the flag, but I will do what Sarah did in Connect Quad and not do so. Thank God for tenure. Lean on your tenured colleagues to do some of this work because we need you.
Because they all have TikTok, they all have Instagram where they have to put their pronouns now. They're all used to it. So it's really, unfortunately, I think it's the parents.
Registering your guns is just the first step towards taking away guns from everyone. That's never going to happen because here in Canada, we have a culture that has grown up with guns and that respects the need.
From today forward, it is no longer legal to buy, sell, or transfer a handgun in Canada. Effective immediately, it is no longer permitted to buy, sell, transport, import, or use military-grade assault weapons in this country.
I think they're gender neutral. It's such a hard question, but I have to say that a biological man cannot be a mother. I think that's a disrespect to mothers all over the world, and the experiences that mothers go through in raising their children is not something that can be bought, it's not something that can be earned, it's something they go from raising up their children, The reason why I find this a very hard topic, because then there's also women out there who can't have children, who then become mothers, and I wouldn't tell them they're not mothers. But when it comes to a biological man trying to parade that they're part of this womanhood of motherhood, I can't be down with that, I'm afraid.
Really? What about you, Hillary?
Well, from a very personal point of view, I had a stillbirth, my first child. I went through pregnancy, I gave birth to her, I held her in my arms, she wasn't alive. And the one thing that comforted me was when people said to me, you're still a mother, you have given birth to this child. And that actually is a dictionary definition of being a mother as well, is giving birth to a child. And so for me, seeing men being called, or transgender women being called mothers that haven't been through the experience of pregnancy and giving birth, for me, it's insulting to my experience. It takes something away from my experience and the experience of other women who've gone through something like that.
99.9% of bricklayers are men. Should we have quotas for women?
Is bricklaying representative democracy?
That has nothing to do with the question. The question is if there's evidence of structural inequality and oppression because women aren't precisely represented at 50% in all professions at all levels, then why don't we have a conversation about having women represented in all professions at all levels? Why do we talk about the C-suite, for example? Why do we talk about politics and positions of power? Why don't we talk about it across the board? But that's because it's power.
And so a lot of times what girls will do is they'll say, oh, I'm being abused, but they don't talk about how she hit him first. Like I had a girl on the show say I was physically abused. And I used to just believe women. Like I would always just be like, oh, I'm so sorry. But then you start asking questions. It baffles me how women turn the situation of them being abused when they aren't. Like this one girl, she came on my show, she said I was physically abused. I said, okay, tell me the situation. What exactly happened? She refused to leave his house. She refused. So she's trespassing on his property, saying I'm not gonna leave, and he pushes her out of the house. Is that abuse? No. Or another thing that girls do is they'll edge a guy on. Like I saw a clip of a girl basically making fun of a guy for having a dead son. And he hit her. Who abused who? And that's the other side of this that we don't talk about is
for feminists doing that's empowering, yet you're relying on creepy, disgusting men who think you are disgusting and trash to ironically pay your bills, which is probably the most degrading thing in the entire world. Whereas actually, if you were in an office, it would be a lot less degrading. You could actually have respect in an office. And do not get offended when you come into the dating pool and dating world and you are seen as a low value woman. In my eyes, you are. In every man's eyes, you are. And don't get offended when people don't want to marry you, don't want you to be their girlfriend. You're going to hit the real world eventually. It's just a matter of time. And no one with any level of like a brain would ever respect someone who does that.
There's a lot to unpack there.
I don't go on the internet and expect people not to judge me. You cannot be a sex worker and expect people not to judge you.
I agree with that.
So just don't complain about the outcome. Go get your bag.
Yes.
And then deal with no one thinking that you're a valuable human, and also bringing just shame to your family name as well.
Women will go out here and let a them raw without putting no ring on it, nothing. But and deal with the consequences afterwards. But you draw the line at making a sandwich for a man. What in the is going on?
Making a sandwich is crazy.
The bar is in hell right now. Like, what's happening?
One piece of advice you would give to someone who's bottoming?
Unfortunately, it's probably not something that's covered in sex ed in the classroom in middle school or high school. So for most guys that are starting out or are interested in bottoming at some point, I think it's important to just really find a resource or information on what to expect, how you should prep for it, what the sensations are, so you don't go into it blind. If you're not expecting something, or if you just aren't comfortable going into sex or bottoming, you're going to get frustrated and you're just not going to have an enjoyable time.
It's important for middle school kids, according to this guy, to be taught about how to get effed in the A.
Unfortunately, there's no resources for the middle schoolers on bottoming.
So what are we talking about here? What are the tips?
You did a 90-second video and you didn't give us any of the tips. There's plenty of time to talk, right?
Yeah, tell us what you want to tell the kids.
If middle schoolers can hear this, you can just tell us right now. We're adults.
What are the tips? It's shit management?
Is it all poop and butt stuff? Is it all like managing your poop and not eating before it and like
washing your ass out with water?
And I think that's a broader theme that we see in a lot of these things where they use some soft language, right? Like, well, bottoming. No, there's a very descriptive way to describe exactly what it is, right? But they're afraid to talk about it because it's so disgusting and so detailed that it would humiliate them.
It's violently inappropriate.
Exactly.
Know exactly when someone isn't paying attention.
白色就是你可能跟网络还没有连接好。
These headbands measure each student's level of concentration. The information is then directly sent to the teacher's computer and to parents.
做出选择吧。Good job.
Classrooms have robots that analyze students' health and engagement levels. Students wear uniforms with chips that track their locations. There are even surveillance cameras that monitor how often students check their phones or yawn during classes. But schools say it wasn't hard for them getting parental consent to enroll kids into what is one of the world's largest experiments in AI education. A program that's supposed to boost students' grades while also feeding powerful algorithms.
Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana.
Have you ever smoked?
I have.
Okay. Like in
And
college,
I inhale. I did inhale.
She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
Word of the day. What's the word of the day? Man, people don't abandon people they would love. They abandon people they were using.
We're like the only race of people that they tell us to forget our history.
Right.
Everybody else, you know, the Japanese would be like, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, we're going to let you know so it doesn't repeat itself.
Even 9/11.
9/11. The Jewish people, Holocaust, don't you forget that shit. That shit's not going to happen.
Right.
Armenian slaughter. Every other person. And then they'll all ask us to support them.
Yes.
In their plight.
Yep.
And we will go, you're right.
Yes.
And we'll protest with
what
them.
About slave?
What about slavery? Oh, fuck. Slavery.
So true.
They just want us to continue to entertain, give them creative ideas so they can steal all of that shit.
Yes.
We are the only motherfuckers that they tell to forget about our history. The shit is so disgusting.
It's disgusting.
When you go to a doctor's office, what's the first thing they do? They pull out your medical history.
Right.
I really believe this. We are so deeply hated around the world. They hate us so much.
Right, it's so true.
And if they're not making money off of, if they're not benefiting sexually, monetarily, culturally, they don't think of us as
And the
human
reason why I
beings.
say that,
You know something? No one has ever hurt you in the whole of your life. No one. No event has ever upset you. This was done by you. In fact, it wasn't even done by you because we wouldn't do this deliberately. It was done by your conditioning, by your programming, by the way you looked at things and at life. That's what needs to be changed. So, if people are bugging you, they're upsetting you, this is a glorious opportunity to understand yourself, to understand your programming, to realize that the upset is coming, not from them, from your programming. I'm not saying don't do something about whatever. That's fine. You want to do something? That's fine. But if you're doing it to relieve your negative feelings, that's awful. Secondly, before acting, you'd better see things clearly. And if you're all upset and disturbed, you're not seeing. Any emotion, especially if it's a powerful one, will come in the way of you seeing things clearly. So when you're not disturbed, you can be much more effective. And you're much more perceptive. And you have much more power.
Oh, I just finished running my plastic to fuel reactor behind me here. Let's see some of the fuel I got out, yeah? Look at that. That's from plastic. Oil. Gasoline. Plastic. Empty. Barely any fume left in there. Not enough to start it on its own, alright? So, plastoline. Gasoline made from plastic. Let's go ahead, put it in. Alright? There we go. It's in. There we go. And I'll put this on full choke. Pull it a couple times. If it doesn't start, we'll just take it off choke, maybe half choke, run it. Let's see. Let's see. Oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah, baby. You heard, baby. You heard. Let's go. Let's go. You heard that? Hold up. Let's go, baby. You heard that? Real talk. This is my plastic to fuel reactor, and it creates gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel out of plastic waste using microwaves. Now, I've recently gotten my unique design patent pending, and everybody's telling me, Jab, you gotta make a statement. So I say, why not?
I am of the view, and I may be wrong, that if the Russian-Ukrainian conflict were to be left to the Russians and Ukrainians, it would not have taken more than 2 months. I believe they would have negotiated, and I believe that the war would have ended somehow. But immediately NATO came into the arena. Immediately the war machine and war industry in Europe and America entered into the arena and are supplying war equipment, aircraft, missiles and bullets. Then it became an industry. And I would want to see the profits that have been made by the companies that manufacture arms in Europe and America after this war. I think their profits must have jumped by several percentage points. And remember that Ukraine is now a theater of war for Western arms manufacturing companies to also test their equipment. They are testing. Now they are taking the cluster bomb, which have not been used in war for a long time. They now want to see what developments have been made and how they work in a real war situation. These are malevolent individuals who are perpetuating this war. So it is true to say that there is big business that is playing out in Ukraine.